almost feels pretty badass. I kind of like it. Not gonna lie. It's got a cool chain. I got that bling. I feel like a proper Viking. And look at this. I even got this. Look at this little knife. It's so shiny. I'm ready. I got this. You see, I really want to do this empowering thing. It actually was quite fun so far. The problem is, I've been doing burial chambers to get silver, and you barely get any silver. You just occasionally get some silver. So, new strategy. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I have a tower shield, and tower shields give this bonus. I also have the belt, so I can hold 700 pounds, or whatever 700 is. And, well, that's a decent chunk of metal. So I could, if I can just find silver somewhere, and probably because this is a played-on server, it'll be apparent where it is. I just need to go to the right mountain. And I know there is silver at this mountain, so that's what I'm going to work on. We're just going to run off. No more lollygagging. We'll just begin. See, it was, oh, the staircase got blown up. Okay, interesting. Wonder when this happened. It is Thursday morning, and on Path of Magic, dungeons reset every Thursday morning and also every Monday morning. So if you log back in, you might see that there is a bunch of monsters outside the dungeons, etc. Totally normal. That's just how it is. Oh yeah, I wanna practice my clubbing. I've been getting tin from dungeons so that I can empower bronze equipment, because I'm trying to ride this bronze train. If I can make bronze fun, I feel like that's a good attitude. That'll be a good way to play test it, right? Because I didn't like the heavy armor at all, so if I can enjoy it, I think that means it's a good starting point. Now, if I just keep traveling down this path, I should get to a mountain. Not a big mountain. Just a regular-ish mountain. Nothing too crazy. And in theory, there's some silver there somewhere. The terrain resets, and I don't have a wishbone, but I think probably I'll still be able to find some. And that, what you see, is the tower shield buff. So now you can use, on Path of Magic, you can use the tower shield to get the tonic of Ratatosk, I think it's called. And that increases your movement speed, which when you have the tower shield out, just sort of negates some of the tower shield's movement speed penalty. But when you put it away, then you actually get the movement speed increase. The idea is to give more practical usage to the tower shield, and also heavy armor sets. The tower shield gives movement speed? What on earth? The tower shield gives the movement speed, and then the armor sets do the rest. They give the increased carry weight. What a place. I'm not sure how the mage spawned. I know how these guys showed up, you know. These guys are normal. Oh, careful! Yikes! These mages. The mages are just so chaotic. It's kind of absurd. I love it. Hey, is that some food? Nice. Hey, bunch of good drops. Interesting. No mana food, though. I think it was someone had the idea of being able to give potions to the mages, or to the diverger. I love that idea. I think it's great. I just forgot to write it down, so let's see. Discord, I'm going to write it down now. Bum, 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 bum. Implementation list. Make verger like potions. It's pretty simple. Cool. That should get the point across. All right. Now, the mountain we're traveling to isn't very far away, actually. We'll see it imminently. Maybe after we cross over this area over here. And the idea is I'm not going to try and do a whole bunch of silver progression or anything. I just want more silver so that I can do more empowering. And I want to try empowering bronze weapons, like the bronze mace, bronze sword, etc. I'm going to like just stick with Bronze Age stuff and keep empowering it. Now, there is some min-maxing people can do with empowering. Some of the other players like to do that, figure out like which one scales right. For me personally, more of my intention with the empowering system is to give players a way to make their favorite weapons more viable. Like, for example, let's say you normally like the the bronze sword, but you have to stop using it so quickly. Well, now you can make the bronze weapons much more powerful. Like, this is a barely empowered bronze mace, right? And it does 65 blunt. Normally you couldn't get that much out of a bronze weapon, but you can keep empowering them and keep remaking them to make them stronger and stronger. And yeah, the technical limit, level 96 bronze mace is less powerful than a level 96, porcupine. Absolutely true. But by allowing these earlier game weapons and all weapons to be more powerful, we also make it so that the players can just push their favorite weapons usable period further into the game. And that's most of the intention. It's not to make like, oh, this is the best, no point in using that. It's all about the experience, and I want to make more of the weapons viable compared to the typical situation where you're forced to just, all right, you got your bronze weapons, now throw them all away and stop giving a shit about them because it's time for your iron weapons. Oh, and those iron weapons now? No. You got black metal now, so throw all that shit in the trash. Like, I don't like that mentality. But I understand why things are done that way, because for game development, it really isn't much easier to have things on a linear progression system. You're going to guarantee that people are interested in at least the beginning part of the game, and then if they get hooked in that, then the linear progression will make them sort of mathematically like things temporarily after that. We got to be careful now. This be Wolfland. The problem with it, though, is in the long run, linear progression breaks. It works great in the short term, but in the long term, it's not viable, basically. It can serve a role if that... Uh-oh. It can serve a role if that makes sense, but essentially it's not viable. Oh, that was hilarious. Oh, he didn't even see me. I see. That's a 2-star wolf? Oh, I see. I've learned the tricks with the wolves. You gotta have the movement speed, and then you just gotta run. You just gotta run. Run. I think my best chance is to actually run into this, like, house thing over here. Maybe I can get a solid... Ooh, no! I went for the diagonal run. I should have known. I was trying to get on that ledge and jump. I was like 2 seconds away. But I underestimated the elevation. C'est la vie. Ah, yes. Pink star wolves are 2-star wolves, and they have lots more health. I learned that the hard way. You'd think I would have realized that, but it's funny that, like, when I play normally, I know things to a point. And I can, like, focus on them and be fine. But then when I'm narrating, it's like my skill level goes down a lot. And I have to, like, pay a lot more attention, and I'm much more easily distracted. And it honestly makes the game more enjoyable in some ways, because even though I know something, I'm not able to make it, like, definitively happen if I'm narrating, because it's more like I get sidetracked and I can't keep as many things in mind, right? Painful. Just gonna hide here for now. Maybe that's why it's fun, because I've noticed that streaming, I need more effort to stream. Like, I need more energy. I need to be more awake. But it's also genuinely more fun. There's something about streaming and talking and keeping that up that is, I don't know if thrilling is the right word, but it makes things feel more immersive. And at first I thought it was because, you know, people watch, but sometimes people aren't watching, and I still have a lot of fun. As long as I'm not tired, like, that's why I prefer to, like, I'd rather wake up early and stream than stream at night when I'm tired. Because I'm just not as good at it, and I don't enjoy it as much, and I don't have as much energy. So it's harder. It feels like I have to try. Whereas in the morning, I just, like, have some tea, wake up, and then it's Valheim, and, like, Valheim wakes me up. It's fun. I love it. And then I can go do other things and not, like, spend my whole day playing Valheim. And that used to be my problem. Like, when I would play Valheim, but then I'd get, like, too into it and play it too much, and then I'd get, like, a bit burned out and stop playing. Whereas now, because of the streaming and the content creation, I can, like, I can play Valheim for a bit. I can stream. I can make some content. And then I can do other stuff. Like, recently I've been playing, well, I love playing old games. I've always loved playing old games. Not always, but for a long time now. But I've been playing Fallout 2. Fallout 2 and Fallout 1 and 2, rather. So it's Fallout 1, but remade in Fallout 2's engine. And I was one of those, let's say, young'uns who got into Fallout in Bethesda's Fallout 3. But I've come to see that that is actually just a mimic. It's like an impersonation almost. So they took what the first two Fallout games did, like in their visual nature and their theme, and then they made an FPS out of it. And I see that a lot of the things that I associate with Fallout were very purposeful visual imagery things that Bethesda did to try and copy elements of the first two games. But for the most part, they changed the thing. And the main thing that I've noticed, at least, playing the earlier games, is that Fallout, the earlier Fallout games, have this, it's like this grim, oppressive vibe that, for me, it feels more like Diablo, or like one of those, there's this gritty feeling from these older, pixelated, challenging games that just, like, it's impossible with good, powerful, well-colored, clear-lit graphics. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't, for me, it doesn't work. For that scary feeling to happen, it has to be, like, pixelated and kind of grimy and have creepy music and be older. Otherwise, I just don't, I don't trust that it's scary. I've played so many games that when I see good, pretty, beautiful visuals that are, like, super HD in every possible way, I just am like, no, that's not scary. There's no way for that to be scary. I know that doesn't make sense. So it's got a lot of details, right? But there's something about it that it just doesn't do it for me. So games like Fallout 1, especially now that I've been playing it, they have this vibe, and it's so atmospheric. There's something about the atmosphere. I'd say Valheim actually captures that pretty well. Valheim is, even though it's a more recent game, like by my standards, Valheim is a modern game. Valheim captures atmosphere in the way a lot of old games do. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy Valheim so much, personally. But Fallout 1 has this grittiness, and I see that when Fallout 3 came out and Bethesda took over, basically, they added this goofiness. So they sort of replaced the darkness with a goofy darkness. So for me, I see that, like, I just thought that was Fallout. I thought it always had this silly, goofy, quirky humor. It's kind of like, yeah, the world ends through weaponry and war, but fuck taking that seriously, because that's just a commentary, you know what I mean? Look at this goofy, silly world, and blah, 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 death goofiness, right? I thought that was Fallout. I thought that was the Fallout vibe. But that's not the Fallout vibe. That was like, maybe you could argue that's sort of the Fallout vibe for Fallout 2. Because it's more goofy, they added more, like, pop culture references and that kind of thing. But in the first game, definitely not. Like, the beginning of that game is very much like an exploration of war destroying us. Not in a goofy way, like seriously taking that into consideration. So there's this, like, for me, that's what I liked about the older games, is they have this, it's almost this seriousness, this like, this grit of not trying to coddle you and baby you, and like, I love that, honestly. I mean, it's also my attitude on Palm, so you can see why I like these older games, and they're probably where I get some of this inspiration for the mechanics on Path of Magic. That seems like a bad place to put these beds, but I'll do it. Hey, I didn't need to light the fire. Awesome. Now, where'd that wolf go? I don't know, but I seem safe now. See, I did things properly this time. No more Neanderthal, like, no setting my spawn. Although, I do like running down the path and chatting. Something about running down the path, like, adds to the not suspense, but it makes it very easy to just converse. Now we're back to more classic Valheim experience. I'm pretty sure there's some gnarly wolves over here. Oh, there she is. Now, how do I deal with her? I got some good stuff. Let's use some poison arrows. These are pretty good. The poison arrows in Path of Magic do AoE poison. So, you can poison multiple enemies now. Hey! And pots sometimes have silver bars, which are what we're actually here for. I think, actually, this hut, players tend to build things, when they look like this, they're not being built for building, right? So probably, there's some silver. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay, friendly wolves. Alright, so this is a wolf pit. Maybe that's what that's for. Usually if you see this kind of building, it means there's something nearby, right? So we have some friendly wolves. I guess the silver is probably further up the mountain. I was happy when I got one of these wolf capes as a drop earlier. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, hey, now we can go into the mountain. Gonna make this very vulnerable little chest here. There's what I was looking for. I've been trying to use the shields more because I tend to not block at all. And then my block skill sucks, but on Path of Magic, you don't lose a bunch of crap when you die, so... Now, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna get ganked by a 2-star wolf. I need to remember that the pink wolves, I have to, like, be able to run, because I'm used to doing a playstyle where I run around a lot. So, using the heavy armor has, obviously reduced that ability, unless I block. Because you need to block to activate the speed buff. But I need to be able to survive a block, right? And the pink wolf is not something I can survive one block from, as far as I know. Maybe if I had a bubble shield, I'd be fine, but I don't, so. Hey, what's that? This mountain has so much, like, gnarly stuff on it. This is also the first time being here from, like, the perspective of a player. But funny how, because of the loot tables and because I've been doing burial chambers, I actually have quite a few mountain materials already. So, I'm not going to worry too much about the obsidian, because what I really care about is the silver. Oh, golem, I hear him. Oh, we're at the motor spawn? Okay. I see. What an interesting way to find it. Calm down, 2-star Drake. Calm down. Why don't you go fight something else? You know, this is what happens. You run away from one enemy and then you just run straight into another one, right? This looks nice. Hey! Oh, it's one of the passageways? Okay. I see, I see. Interesting. I guess I can go through it. Some frost arrows. I'm gonna take some of these. Get away from this golem. Or actually, no, I should put all this stone away before it screws me over. Any wood? I could make, like... Nah, I don't have any wood. Well, I guess I'm gonna be risky. See if I regret that. I don't want to. I'm not worried about the stone golem. I am specifically here to try and find some silver. But I'm hoping there's some kind of visual imagery, let's say. I feel like there is some silver here somewhere, and I'll just stumble into it. But maybe that's nonsense. Hey, there we go. There is some silver. Okay, cool. Now I just have to not die. Hey, don't attack me. Come on. You can fight that nice looking stone golem. You don't need to shoot me. Thank you. Thank you, stone golem. How do these arrows work? Oh, okay. Chill. The Drake teleported. Oh, it does a lot of damage. What? Hey. Oh, wow. Okay, that's OP. Holy crap. That's kind of what I would expect from explosive arrows, but I had no idea they were that strong against the stone golems. I'm used to stone golems being like a really powerful monster, so it's kind of weird to see them just get nerked so quickly. We'll see. I don't know how I feel about the explosive arrows, because in general they're just super powerful. Let's see, so I guess the... Ah, I see. So, basically, it's the golem itself is really weak against that, because these drakes, I mean, they're taking like a full hit. They take 3 hits, right? Something like that. I feel like I'm fighting cliff racers. Alright, that was exactly as much as I can handle. Oh, and this thing got all messed up. Look at this place. How violent. Alright, I found the silver node, but now let's like put some of this stuff away here. Oh, the chest is empty. That's good. Okay. Let's just pile this stuff up here. So on Path of Magic, anytime something is loose, all loose items on the server get destroyed once a week. So you have to make sure you store things. And I might change that at some point, but for now I'm rolling with it. Because, honestly, the main difference between someone who's focused on the game design element and a player is that the game design element really loves item sinks. Because basically, if you have a lot of item sinks and people are tolerant of them, so they're like having fun with it and enjoying it, you have a world that is enjoyable and useful to play in. Because without item sinks, oof, not so much. Hey Pan, welcome, good afternoon. I think for you it's the afternoon, right? So Pan says that they did Fallout 2 only, didn't get to experience the goofiness of Fallout 3. Well, goofiness of Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Fallout, whatever those 2 PS2 titles were. There was a whole bunch of goofy Fallout games. Arguably, more Fallout games are goofy than not goofy, to be honest. What did you think of Fallout 2? I haven't played Fallout 2 much. I've been playing the first one in, like, there's this fan mod that remakes the first one in the engine of the second one. So you get all the, like, quality of life stuff. without the kind of jankiness, you know? And I've been having a blast, to be honest. Like, I gotta say, I've been playing other Bethesda games that are old. Like, I've tried Arena, Daggerfall, these games. They are way more challenging to get into than Fallout. Like, Fallout is genuinely, like, a masterpiece. It's really beautiful. It has such a powerful theme in general. That's been something very noticeable that I've seen just from the amount of the game, the first game that I've played. And I played for maybe like 20 hours. I keep like basically like redoing the beginning, basically. That's what I do in these old games. I just keep retrying them over and over and over and over again. And I think that was it. That was our silver. I honestly didn't expect to actually get the silver, so I'm kind of flabbergasted. we could even equip some more as long as I remember to keep my buff up here. And so on Palm, this is actually a byproduct of using vegetation resets. But because of the way the terrain is reset through Upgrade World, the silver nodes don't get perfectly covered. It seems that basically when the world spawns originally, there's these extra steps that happen. Like the silver node spawns and then the game notices it's clipped out, so it adds extra terrain. But that extra terrain doesn't modify the default terrain level. Makes sense? So when Upgrade World respawns the stuff, it sets it back to the default terrain level, which causes you to have silver nodes that, like, split out. Hey, some wood. Haha. So Pan says, Fallout 2 was a great game. Came back to it a few times. Great atmosphere. Hey, I'm glad you like it. That's awesome. I haven't played it much, but I can tell from how the engine of the first one feels that's remade in the second one that it's nice. Like, definitely compared to Daggerfall, like the early Bethesda games, specifically Daggerfall and Arena, and to a certain point, Morrowind, are absolutely games that you benefit from, like, watching content about and learning about. I know some people feel like there's spoilers and you can ruin things, but personally for me, like that's just not how it works. Like when I play these older games, they're so challenging and like sometimes so niche that like I can learn about things and I don't know. It doesn't ruin the fun at all for me. It's just like genuinely enjoyable to learn about how game mechanics work. And then when I actually encounter them when I'm playing, it's like, oh, okay. I remember that thing from the video now, but I don't usually remember the thing until it kills me. So like I don't find that learning about games and these atmospheres ruins anything. For me personally, it adds to the atmosphere. Nice. That looks nice, by the way. Good job. Very pretty. But maybe that's when the game's challenging. Because if a game's super easy, and like it's only hard if you don't know this one thing, maybe I could see in that circumstance how it might spoil it, right? Whereas if a game's genuinely challenging and there's loads of nuance and different things to learn about it, like I just like learning as much as possible, and I have fun watching videos, and for me, like that's a lovely way to immerse myself in the game world, is to, like, while I'm gardening or watering the plants, I'll listen to video essays about people's favorite games. And like that's one of my favorite things to do, is to just listen to people talk about the games that they love. And like even when it's games that like I hate or I don't like, or I've tried to play but I like, it doesn't matter. Like I just like hearing people talk about the different things that they enjoy in the video games that they play. And I've found that sometimes I'll try and play a game and I won't be able to get into it. But then I'll listen to someone's video And like it gives me an angle or a perspective, and then I can play the game and actually have fun. And like there's something that happens. It's almost like you get sort of like a multiplayer feel from single player games. You know what I mean? So Pan was saying that Aliens versus Predator Gold had the... Oh, that used the Fallout 2 game engine? Huh. Oh, no. I see what you're saying. So you're saying that there's the Aliens versus Predator Gold, which is the first game engine, and it was more scary. And then they made a new engine with the second game, and it was less scary. So you could feel the emptiness more with the first one. And maybe that's the same kind of thing I've noticed with the older games, like Diablo 1 in particular. If you've ever played Beelzebub, I think it's called. It's like a rework of Diablo 1 where they add in cut content and they make it more friendly to like new computers and these things. It's definitely worth checking out. One of the things I like about it is it changes the inventory experience, and that makes like Diablo 1, you can focus on the things that are like fun about it more. At least from my perspective. I really liked Beelzebub, something like that. And then Diablo 2 is awesome as well. There's something about 2s, like, it's like the second game tends to be pretty good. Some series, like, do really well all the time, like the Witcher series. I played the crap out of the second Witcher game and really liked the first Witcher game as well. That's another good, like, very unique game. I don't really think of the first Witcher game as like if you've played the third Witcher game, it's very different because the first two Witcher games are linear stories, right? Whereas the second one and the third one is open world. So it's very, very different than what you might be used to. But the first one is more like a classic computer, like first person RPG. Like, it was very unique, and they have this kind of, this clunky feeling. It's kind of similar to games like Fable: The Lost Chapters, except Fable's a bit more, it has more of that, like, humor, whereas The Witcher, the first Witcher game, takes itself more seriously. Not in a bad way. I love the first Witcher game, to be honest. And ironically, when I first tried streaming, and, well, let's say practicing narration, at this point, like, ages ago, 8 years ago, something like that. I first tried with The Witcher 1 and The Witcher 2 because I wanted to prepare for playing the third Witcher because I knew it was going to come out. And I got all this stuff, and then life ended up derailing me, and I was unable to. But that's the true irony, right? Often we prepare for things that don't end up happening. But it ended up being useful because now, ages later with Valheim, life was like, okay, now you're ready to have some kind of content in your life. I don't know what this is about, but I'm just gonna try and run past all this nonsense. I think we'll be all right as long as I shut the door. I don't wanna run down that again, so I'm gonna set my spawn and be smart. And I'm still shocked I actually got silver. That was not as convoluted as I expected it to be. In all honesty. Hey, Thor's here. Cool. It's unusual. Usually, usually this time is when people are like working in. At least the people who play on the server, this time of day, it's pretty quiet. So there's a lot of space on the server this early in the day. The server recently, it varies. Like, each day between 1 and like 4 people will log in normally. Maybe on some days it's more, like maybe like 6 to 8 if there's like something happened or I made content. But that's kind of like the spot. And I'm not trying to make the server very popular, if that makes sense. I like how the community is, and all I care about really is that people are having fun and that there's activity. So, for me, like, it's sort of problematic if the server's full or there's a lot of people playing on it, because then I have to do more work managing people. And like for the playtesting, it's actually easier if it's like a chill, smaller community. But it's worked really well. I think because like I was concerned about being like public with the information, but I think because of how niche Path of Magic is, it's just not something like no map, no portal. It just isn't something that most Valheim people are interested in, which kind of helps in this case. Because then the people who play, like, I feel like they're like, genuinely interested in playing. You know what I mean? Let's see. Panan says, ruins on that mountain used to be the tower outpost, but Motor destroyed it. That makes sense. Motor's very destructive. My first experience fighting Motor, I did not realize that Motor, like, one-shots buildings, and I made this big stone castle. I spent, like, days working on this castle so that I could fight Motor, and I had this idea that the stone would keep me safe from Motor. I mean, oh my god, I remember it so clearly. I made this like this area for the beds and everything, and I had these perimeters, and then so I die, and I come back to life, and bosses have hunt mode, right? So they know where you are and they come straight to you, and when you spawn within the perimeter of the boss, it has hunt mode, so it knows where you are, right? And I remember waking up on the bed and having a thought of like, I'm really glad that I built this nice big castle, because now I'm safe. And then I just hear this noise, and it turns out Motor was right on the other side of the wall, and she did one melee swipe, and it like force deleted everything basically. Like there was no structural integrity. There was no health. No, it didn't matter. It's like all of the pieces just instantly got destroyed. My bed, I died. I just saw the whole thing happen, and I was just like, that's not a viable strategy at all. So that was my first Motor fight, and I loved it, to be honest. I absolutely loved it. And then I went and did it normally, and Motor got glitched, and I had a normal Motor experience. but I have a thing for like when a game like puts me in my place that way. There's something about it that it makes me be like, I can't just mess around and do whatever I want in this world. There are consequences. I have to pay attention. And then I feel immersed. So sometimes I need like reminders, and I think that's why I like these more brutal experiences. But I don't like corpse running, and I also don't like the whole hardcore thing, for me personally. So like, while yes, I do like brutal games, I don't like it when like there's brutal punishments in games. I just like it when you die brutally and like you knew why, and these kind of things. Like, that's what I mean when I say brutal. Like, it's easy to die, not that it's very punishing to die. I don't think brutal punishment and brutal sort of experience are the same thing, although we do kind of talk about them like they are. Sometimes that can be a bit confusing. Woof. I love these little undead armies. So they're from the crypts. When the crypts respawn, you get more undead monsters, and every time an undead respawns, you get a chance for another undead to respawn at some random time later. So there's a whole bunch of crazy things that can happen. So let's see here. I'm gonna see if we can load up our silver. Just tossing stuff on the conveyors here. Now, I don't want this copper to go in before the silver, so I'm gonna put the copper in further. Now, let's see. Bum-ba-dum. That's one way to get up. Is our conveyor... Hey, our foreman is alive. That's so bizarre. I'm not used to them staying alive, to be honest. It's a little laggy here. There must be a bunch of enemies in this crypt. I'll probably do one of these crypts, actually. It's a good thing to do while I wait for the silver to smelt, probably. Alright, now, what's this? Box of seeds. Hey! Interesting. I don't know if I want turnip seeds to be in there, but that... I mean, this is an interesting drop, because on one hand, it would be incredible to a person who's trying to do the progression and is interested in that. Whereas on the other hand, many people won't care about any of it. But in general, I like these boxes. There's like 30 different boxes, and they all have different things in them. There's like a box of supplies, box of frost arrows, box of fire arrows, box of spears, box of wood, box of glass or crystal, all sorts of different things. And the idea is to sort of like just add more variety to the loot experience on Path of Magic. I find that to be enjoyable. So I've noticed though that there is sort of this issue over here. The enemies accumulate under this conveyor. They try and get to the diverger who's right here. And so they come like right up here and they try and kill him. So I'm gonna make a little ledge real quick. And nothing fancy, nothing crazy. We're just gonna lay some brick. Probably just gonna make this. I've been learning, right? And I learned if you make the whole pattern first, then you can just do this instead of futzing with it. And this is more fun. It's fun to like do the bits that you need to think about all at once, and then you can just fill the rest. There we go. Easy peasy. So that's just a simple wall to see if it stops the enemies from trying to go underneath and accumulating there. Because then I end up shooting it with like fire arrows and blowing things up and all sorts of stuff. It gets messy. Pan says, let's see, there could be more players playing at Mistlands and Ashlands, not only reaching Plains and Mistlands. Could fade. Ah, yeah. Yeah, so that's the idea, basically. I want, at some point, to figure out how, like, there can be multiple different groups of people on the server at once. Like, that'd be the dream, really, is, like, not... I don't want to have, like, a big server that has, like, 30, 40 people, that kind of thing. But what would be ideal is, like, between, like, 2 and, like, 15 people playing on and off, some of which are in earlier progression, others are in endgame, and as endgame and others leave, other people come back, etc., etc. Hello, Alanguju, welcome. Welcome another Discord spammer, welcome, welcome. But the idea is, like, to have other people joining, but that is, in practice, really complicated. Like, even the way Palm functions now, where like it's a year-old server and new players join, like getting that to be possible in the first place took redoing a lot of stuff. So like then getting the server itself to be have more groups of players is more of a social engineering thing and less of the way I make content, if that makes sense. So, like, the way I do it now, there will be basically how things are. Sometimes people, like, maybe just 1 or 2 people log on for the day. Other times, maybe it's 5 or 6. But it's not, like, super crowded. That's how it is if I'm just live streaming and I'm showing things off. The people join for a bit, especially other server creators. They'll join just to, like, see what's going on and get ideas for, like, their servers, right? So, like, I want to lean into that. But also, like, realistically, for me to have people in different playgroups more often, I need to, like, shape the content to accommodate that. And I need to invite people to do things and, like, do that sort of thing. So for now, I'm not too worried about it. I'm just very happy that I have, like, a place that I can adjust. And that all of the people who enjoy Path of Magic enjoy Path of Magic. I mean, it's so... Like, I really thought for a long time it would be years before I'd be able to start practicing game development. Like, genuinely, I believed that. But thanks to all of you enjoying the server and watching these streams and watching these videos, it's not like that anymore. Like, I get to practice game development now, and I don't have to wait until I'm older, and I don't have to figure out how to get rich and all these things, because I don't need money to practice game development in Valheim, because I don't own Valheim. I like, you know, so like, on one hand, I can't like earn money from something I make with it, but on the other hand, I can learn everything possible that I need to learn to then make something else myself, you know? And that, for me, is very exciting. So we're going to wait for our silver to smith a little bit here, and meanwhile, we're going to raid this burial chamber here. I've been having a lot of fun with the burial chambers. The idea is just keep redoing them, make little adjustments, redo it, make little adjustments, over and over and over again. And if it gets boring, that means I need to adjust something. And I found that the key is there's a couple things. The empowering system, the variety of drop rates, variety of monsters. But this alone isn't enough. I'm basically working on the base template. I want to make sure that the burial chamber itself, they tend to be really deep. They have a lot of interesting dynamics that can happen. Like here in this case, right? We can find these crypt explorers, and we can use them to help us destroy the monsters, right? Like I can open the doors and then she'll aggro, and they're wicked strong compared to the other enemies. And we can even heal them by giving them food and stuff, right? So she's taken some damage. So if I give her one little bread here, oops, she'll eat it and then get full health. And little things like this, like it's all about figuring out what is one little change you can make that adds a dynamic to come across. Like how I'm fighting with the Diverger, we can heal the Diverger. If we don't protect them, they'll end up getting killed because multiple enemies will hit them at once, they'll get staggered. So it's not like the Diverger just kill everything, you know? We still have to manage the fact that they have a AI and all this, right? But for the most part, they're small. They do a better job of navigating than than the big enemies do. And they pack a punch, you know? And this is just one of the things, but the idea is through lots of different variety and lots of different occurrences and many different items that we can acquire, that we can add that depth. So that's why I'm doing the burial chambers so much, is because I really want that base experience. Ooh, gosh. I want to have a good sense of it. And that, whew, brutal. All right. I got lucky, he didn't see me. Okay. I want to have a good sense of the base burial chamber experience on Palm. And then, like, the focus is there's different things that can happen. It's not what you expect. It's dangerous. And the more monsters you fight, the more stuff you get for building and progressing as you want, right? So in this case, for example, you can see that monsters respawn more often. We also have these ancient pots, and when you destroy these, you'll get a random metal, basically. So in this case, it was bronze, but sometimes if you're lucky, you'll get silver. So there's all sorts of different things that can happen, and these are all different ways to add depth to the burial chambers, because the burial chambers themselves are quite simple. So they're a great, not like starting spot. Ooh, I thought I could survive the block. No. but they're a great, how do I put it? Baseline. That's the word, a baseline. Because they're early on in the game, players will experience them pretty much regardless of whether they keep playing Valheim or not. They'll probably get to a burial chamber. So if you can get them into that dungeon building loop, maybe good things will happen. And if I just keep focusing on this, I'll inevitably, like, just make it more fun, right? And the thing I can tell already is that, okay, we've added loads of variety. Lots of different things can happen. Like, you just saw that we found some Diverger, and then we can heal them, we can fight with them, we can also trade them things, just like this trader here, right? So there's all sorts of things you can do. But it still is almost... Okay, it would still become predictable, if that makes sense. So it's fun, and the chaosness is very interesting. And I can tell, as the person who's working on it, that it is working. Like, definitely, it's more interesting. This is what I'm going for. The thing is, there's something missing. I get this feeling, this little feeling that something's missing. And I think it's themes. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that in a little bit. But I actually have some tea steeping in the kitchen, so I'm going to go get that tea, and then I will be right back, okay? All right. Hello, everybody. I am back. I am back. Hello, Tony. Welcome, welcome. I do get fed up climbing ravines, to be honest. But I'm also shocked at how well our earlier voyage went, in honesty. Because basically what I want to do is empower equipment. And in order to empower stuff, you need to build a treasure chest. Each treasure chest requires 2 silver and some other stuff. That's something I can get into, but pretty much, if you want to make anything in Valheim more useful, this is the holy grail. Again, accidental discovery. I didn't come to this logically, but this item is a crazy effective sink because it uses coins, rubies, silver necklaces, fine wood, and silver. And that may not make sense to you, so let me elaborate on what I mean. Valheim already supplies the player with coins, rubies, silver necklaces, and these kind of, let's call them currencies, these treasures. The problem is that all of the mechanisms to motivate the player with treasure, like the things they can use treasure for, are linear and finite. So there's basically, like, you get an egg, you get a belt, what do you give a shit about after that, right? It really isn't motivating. So the single simplest thing that you can do to your Valheim server is figure out a way to get the players to consume treasure chests. How can the player build a treasure chest and have it be taken away as payment for something? It is a very powerful sync. Incredibly powerful. And I didn't realize it at the time, but by picking the treasure chest as the cost for empowering, we accidentally balanced the empowering system. Because without an expensive cost for an attempt, you could just take any cheap item to make, like a hammer, right? Let's say this stone axe. I could make like 30 of these and then empower them all if it was just coins. But because it uses all of these other items, it's very expensive to try and empower something. And this creates this interesting sweet spot where you don't really want to waste an empower attempt on something that is super cheap. But also, you don't want to use empowering on something that is very expensive. You see what I'm saying? So it sort of makes this interesting balance. And let's turn this on so we can yabber a bit while we're producing some silver. And I'm about to show you more about it, and I think you'll understand. But the empowering system is just like, it's honestly a blast. And especially after adding these little things, maybe I'm just geeking out, but that green text, you notice how it's a bit of a dull green? Well, that's because it's partially empowered. So the more empowered it gets, the brighter green that text becovers until it's like neon level fully empowered. And I don't know, maybe this is why there's something about this kind of stuff. It just makes me happy. Like I don't get why little subtle things like that make me feel happy, but like it's like it almost feels legit because it messes with the UI, and normally I can't mess with the UI. That's like the big black hole of EWP, is that you can't really mess with the UI, right? But now we can, and this empowering system does it a little bit. But it all started because, believe it or not, I was trying to figure out how I could get the player to willingly, how do I explain this? Okay, so, yeah, oh yeah, it was 2-star Droger, of course. So, basically, the player, I wanted to figure out a way for the player to willingly destroy their own item. Because I have this obsession in Valheim, as you've noticed, with this notion that the Valheim can last a long time if the game attrits the player. Kind of like in the game Breath of Magic, if you've played that game. I hate the attrition in Breath of Magic personally. It is so hardcore, where it's basically a bartering system. Every fight, you're trading your current weapon for whatever the enemies have. That was way hyper overtuned from my perspective, but that on a more toned down level is what I'm going for. Like, you make more powerful weapons by getting a lot of stuff and putting them together and playing a lot, and your powerful weapons can be more of your choice. You know, you can take an early game weapon and make it stronger, and so the idea, though, is like, how do we get players to toss their weapons? Because if the weapon is in the player's inventory, the server can't touch it. It can't do anything to it. But the moment the player does this, then the server can do something to it. So it was like, how do we get the player to willingly throw the item away, knowing it might get destroyed? That was the original question. And I didn't know how to answer that. I had this like, oh, we can repair it anywhere they want, but then it might get destroyed. And that was nowhere near powerful enough. But then Yer posted this thing, this mathematics thing, and it changed everything, and we added it, and then boom, suddenly the empowering system came to be. And that's how it originated. 1 second, I need to relocate Little Rooster. Let's see. I'll keep him with me for one little cuckoo, and then we'll see. You know, if you like birds, get little chickens. They're freaking awesome. They like being like with you. They hang out with you. You can put them on your shoulder. They're really cool. I'll take him away now. I was just saying, he's real. I swear. Honestly, that little guy is so incredibly adorable. He hears me streaming, right? And so he starts cuckoo cachooing. That's what we call it, cuckoo cachooing. But he starts doing that like after I've been streaming in the morning. But he's in this like roost area, so it's like really loud for everyone, myself included. So every morning when I stream, I take him, and then when he starts doing that, I go and I put him on in the bathroom, and he poops, right? But he's in the toilet, so he like sits on the toilet, and then he poops in the toilet. It's so funny. Like, I'm telling you, little chickens, they are just the cutest little creatures, I swear. But now to get back into our Valheiming. What I wanted to get at is one of the improvements that I want to keep working on with the dungeons, specifically the burial chamber. As I mentioned, the idea is to use the burial chamber as a par or as a default or as a baseline for the experience. So that's why I'm playtesting it so much. Once I get the hang of this, I know what I want to do, and I can extrapolate that out to all of the other dungeons to also make all of them more interesting. And we've already done that to a point, but I haven't really added, like, I basically just tried random stuff, whereas now I'm playtesting the burial chambers, and specifically for the mechanics that work, that add depth. For example, okay, there's many things you could make spawn in a burial chamber. A yellow mushroom turning into a blue mushroom. Okay, it's kind of nice. Now, the yellow mushrooms turn into blue mushrooms, and the blue mushrooms are worth loads of money. So it feels more interesting. But still, okay. I would say that's an alright, a so-so addition. But the yellow mushrooms turning into a diverger, that is very interesting. You can trade with it. You can keep it alive. You can heal them if they get hurt. They help you fight. That is top tier addition right there from my perspective. So it's all a matter of continuously testing, play testing, finding stuff until you stumble upon a whole handful of these top tier and so-so average additions. And then the contrast of those average additions, which are like, yeah, okay, kind of interesting, to the like, whoa, that's really cool ones, helps make a dynamic that adds that depth. But then you need to also increase the size of the dungeons to give more chances for all of that depth to play out and occur, right? So that's our attitude so far. But I haven't gotten to the themed dungeon approach, right? And that's what I wanted to talk about, really, is this notion of thematic occurrences. Basically, what we're experiencing is what I'll call the baseline burial chamber. As you've noticed, different things can happen. Sometimes there's copper nodes. We get tin out of the burial chamber. We see that we can mine it. Sometimes there's friendly enemies. There's lots of different enemies. The spawners come back. This is, so to speak, the vanilla palm chamber. Make sense? What I want to do is make thematic chambers. So basically there is a wolf den, and everything in it is wolves and fenring and cultist and olves. But it's really rare, like 1 in 100 chance. And same thing, there's also a Grey Dwarf den, except that one is much more common, maybe 1 in 3, or not 1 in 3, 1 in 30, okay? The idea is to make these very uncommon occurrences that totally change the mob set of the dungeon. And I have a theory that I can do this by swapping the things out as they spawn. So basically, the same monsters will spawn, but because of the presence of the theme trigger, it will convert everything to a Grey Dwarf, or convert everything to a wolf type, or convert everything to some other kind of monster. You see what I'm getting at? I have a theory that if we can get this down, if these dungeons, the loop of respawning them over and over and over and over, if that itself can be really fun and enjoyable and long term, then something beautiful will happen. I can just feel it. I just gotta keep trying and keep playtesting and keep making content about it. And then eventually I'll be able to supply people with a simple, less than half a megabit file that they just plop onto their server. And boom! Long-term, whole crazy situation. That's what I want. I'm like using Palm. This is Palm, the server I run, Path of Magic. But there's going to be a Palm layer that I make content about and show people how to set up, that I distribute freely. And I'll try and make money off of servers, so I'll encourage people to like use the server service I use, but also I'll make content showing them how to just use whatever they want and just plop Palm on top of it. That's the idea. So here we have the benefit of the path, but I know that when people do this, most of them aren't going to do it no portal, no map, because they don't like to play Valheim that way. They're in a rush, they're more impulsive, they don't have as much time, so for whatever reason, this is not a good way to play Valheim for them. So we need to keep this in mind. And in the layer, it's gonna like play itself basically, right? So you put the layer on, all the dungeons are different. You know what I mean? That's the idea, that they can install it on their server, and then their server is that version of long-lasting Valheim. I might change it actually. Right now I'm referring to this project as the Palm layer, but this is Path of Magic. This server is Path of Magic. But the actual project itself can be something like long-lasting Valheim. I can word it some way to indicate that like it's a way you patch your Valheim server to then make it so that it redoes all the mechanics to be in this orientation of lasting a long time. And then the benefit of that is it's more spreadable, right? Because people can just work on it and they can add it to their existing worlds, etc., etc., etc. That's the idea. So for now, let's stop getting distracted here. Gonna go get my body because I'm pretty sure I died earlier. And I've been smelting, so before I go in, may as well make sure this is good. We already did it. All right, cool. I guess I can bring, this is the Ultra cart? Yeah. Nice. These things hold so much stuff. So we're going to bring this a little bit closer. Because these tombs, they can hold so much loot that you almost need like a system to make the loot manageable, right? So there we go. We're gonna just drop this stuff off, and I'm gonna withdraw. Withdraw. 200. Actually, I could do like more than that, to be honest. Let's not worry about this guy here. All right. We need, let's go with 405 coins. I like the super cart because it has more storage space. Even though I know, you know, you lose coins, but hey, what can I say? I'm trying to make it so you spend, you get. You spend, you get. And that loop keeps the coins fun. If you don't spend the coins, you won't have as much fun. But also at the same time, there needs to be lots of different ways to enjoy spending coins. See what I'm getting at? So for now, we're just gonna toss our coins, say bye. Ooh, whoa, 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 whoa. Chill out, Mr. Wraith. Chill out. Alright, alright, alright. Where is he? What happened to him? Did he just clip through the roof? Okay, okay. I learned my lesson. So the main thing to remember with melee on Path Magic is if you miss a block and you lose your bubble, you can then die really suddenly. But as long as you're holding block, like even if I have my back turned, you see this? I can just stay in the corner. And as long as I have the block up, I also have Corpse Run right now, which makes it a lot easier. But because of the bubble blocking system, you'll basically like stay alive longer than you expect, as long as you're holding block. But the moment you're not holding block and you lose that bubble, then I'm just like moments away from dying. And it makes this interesting mechanic because you can't block and also attack at the same time, right? So you have to become vulnerable in order to attack. And I love it. And hey, we got some more silver. Now that I went and got some, of course. But I really love that. That's one of the mechanics I'm trying to playtest. Because I have this theory about health points with D&D. So I guess I can elaborate on it now. Why not? Basically, we've been using an old system where you have X health points. Let's say you have 100 health. Attacks take away, you know, a certain amount of health. And then when you hit 0 health, you die. Okay? Very, very simple. And strong attacks do a numbers game, and you do more damage. Weaker attacks do a numbers game, they do less damage. Blah, 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 linear escalation, etc., 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 right? So, the problem with that is it's linear. So in the long run, I don't... Okay, now how do I explain this? Let's talk about a game like World of Warcraft. They use linear progression in the world. This produces a fantastic route throughout the world that you can take and experience together. And as you're on that route, as long as there's enough other people in a similar situation to you, it gives a feeling of immersion into the world, in the zone, while that zone's relevant to you, that is powerful but temporary. It's the problem with linear game design. It is powerful but temporary. The immersion is powerful but temporary. The problem is that when you then become powerful, there's very little reason for you to go into that zone. If you ever played World of Warcraft, you might think, okay, well, no, you can mine things. Yeah, okay. You can go mine copper, it's true. Sometimes there's a useful herb or something, yeah. But can you honestly say that you can go back into a beginning level zone and have the immersive experience you had as a low-level character? It just doesn't work that way. You're a god. Nothing can even hurt you in those games. Like, literally, it's irrelevant, right? I have a gut feeling, basically, that is problematic in the long run. And that for the game to feel really immersive in the long run, every zone needs to be capable of helping and harming the player. With Valheim, it's a little bit different because the meadows should be safe. I don't think it's necessary for anything in the meadows to really hurt the player, aside from themselves, you know? But there's this notion that, yeah, we like kind of overprotect people. And because we overprotect people, players become very used to things, and they end up wanting things and like having standards that end up reducing the immersion in the long run at their own expense. And so obviously this is all me being theoretical. I'm just talking to you about this, right? And that's the glory of Path of Magic, is now I have a chance to test out all these different theories. And a theory is just a theory until you develop a mechanic that can counter it, right? So let's get back into that health points thing. We've been doing this health point system for a long time. You have health points, your health points hit 0, you die. You can get health points, there's armor maybe that reduces the damage, you can do things that make you do more damage. The player learns to enjoy the linear growth of going from 1 damage to 100 damage. They learn to identify with doing more damage and feeling more powerful. See what I'm saying? So how can that possibly change? It's easy to think this way, right? But everything is changing. Everything constantly is in flux. And for the most part, we live in a world that creates things based on copies of what already exists far more often than it tries new ideas. So, with all that in mind, I think that by using state systems for health, you can create much more immersive experiences in video games. Because essentially the player's psychology, their mind, they need something to grip onto. Like, I'm not saying their wants, I'm saying the deep part of the player. They need to perceive some level of danger. And I don't mean like, oh, something's gonna come out of the woods and club them at any moment. I mean like, for the world itself, like, okay, for this bronze mace to matter, for it to, for a person that's a human to care about the pixels on this screen, first they need to be able to be in a world that can make them feel loss, can make them feel hurt. I know this sounds weird, but it's a key to understanding what gets our brains immersed. Basically, we become interested in the world in some way when we feel that there are things that can make us safe or that we need to protect. This act of these pixels representing protection and safety from danger are a fundamental part of what leads to immersion in video games. So, without a dangerous world, it is highly unlikely you can keep players immersed in the long run. It's hard to produce a world that people keep coming back to. Because once you get the strong gear, traditionally, you become almost unkillable in a lot of situations, and it makes them mundane. It's almost like when one starts using cheat codes or something, and the game world just loses its depth completely. If you've ever had that experience, that's a really common thing for people. So these are all things about psychology that you have to understand in the first place. Otherwise, game development will be very confusing. Because if you think of people as like logical, they're just not really. Like you can predict someone's logic if you know how they are and you know their type of logical pattern, right? Like if you know a player likes to look at the numbers and do these things, you can predict that they're gonna go with the best numerical option. But that is actually just one player type, and people make it seem that everyone's taking the best option, but people are just doing what they feel like is worth doing. That could be fun if they care about fun. It could be min-maxing if they care about min-maxing. It could be building something pretty. It could be just listening to music because their life sucks or whatever. Like, you never really know what pushes a player to be immersed into a video game. And we often focus a lot more on the games, but what I believe is that it often has to do with the player's life. And there's often a level of suffering or a level of discontent with the real world that drives the psyche of the human to be fascinated by these pixels on the screen. We make it more worth looking at. Whereas people, whoa, what the? I did not. Sorry, I just did not expect that in any way whatsoever. That just floored me. I thought this was a dead end. What? Okay. Yikes! I don't know. Okay, this is it's scary. This is where you have to know the mechanics to survive, right? Because the fire got me. But basically, you bubble block, and then when the bubble block breaks, you have to be as close to as many enemies as possible, because then you'll get that stagger, that AoE stagger, and then that gives you a moment to be okay. Oh man, that was awesome though. I gotta say, I was really into that narrative, and I didn't see that second hallway. I fully thought that was just a dead end, and then boom, just all of those. Like, I love it. That is what I'm going for. I love that feeling of thinking I get it, thinking I know, thinking, and then boom. Like, nope. And there, I could have actually survived. Maybe it didn't seem like I could have survived, but in those situations with AoE mobs, the poison mobs and the fire mobs are what kill you, because they do damage to you through everything else, basically. So as long as you keep blocking and you get rid of those, and like Pan said, yeah, you can take advantage of the fact that enemies often heal you, right? When you kill them in combat. So you can kill the weaker enemies to get those heals in, and then you can survive. But in general, if you're taking constant hits, you have to keep your shield up. So if you'll only have a couple, let's say like 20 seconds before something ends up poisoning you or fire bolting you. So yeah, and also if I had a health potion and these things too. But if I had just killed the Surtling, because they die in one hit, they die really easily. But the Surtlings, like, they get behind you and they get you burning, basically. And then yeah, just no bad news bears, right? That was really fun though. I gotta recover. One moment. I need to sip my tea. Alright, let's eat something obscene like boar meat. Yeah. That was so intense, I completely forgot my train of thought. I was talking about immersion. Yeah, how humans, we have something in our life that's not going well, and that pushes us out of the desire to exist, sort of. I'm not saying it's always like this. I think it's called escapism, right? I'm not saying that every person who plays games is escaping, but I'm just saying that there is a fundamental aspect of immersion in a game that has to do with these concepts, okay? That's all. And you have to be aware of it when you're trying to make like a long-term immersive experience. It's important that you're aware of like the human psychology and what causes that to happen. And I can elaborate a little bit about why, like, let's talk about a mistake that a lot of people make, especially server owners. We try and control things too much, and we want people to be playing too often. And this isn't just a server owner thing, it's also a game developer thing. Not so much a player thing, it's more of a, like, either a community manager or some kind of developer with yeah, some kind of situation where people are using the product. And there's this desire to make people use something a lot, as much as possible, to make it so convenient that they have to use the thing, right? You don't ever want them to not be able to use the thing. But this, in the long run, comes at great expense. Because what you want is a long-term beneficial relationship between the player and the game. And you can't really do that when you are addicting the player and consuming them, because it's going to make it such that the player develops resentment of some form for the game itself. And that is a bad thing when it comes to long-term immersion. If you create problems for the player's real life or the other humans in the player's real life, you will destroy the long-term immersion of the game. It's fundamentally important that people are able to come and go and take breaks, because the reality is we are not pixels. We are humans looking at pixels. And if we deprive our bodies, we lose our ability to stay immersed in video games. So to be truly immersed in the long run, you need to live a somewhat fulfilling life. Otherwise, you will become depressed. You will become unhappy. Because ultimately, computers alone can't make one happy. I found that they can become a huge part of a happy, incredible life. Don't get me wrong. Like, I happily use the computer sometimes like 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And I'm okay with that. But that's because I have a garden, I have a balance of life, I don't feel lonely, I feel like I have everything that I need. I don't want for more. So I don't suffer in the same way that other people do. But if you're just sitting at a computer and you are not doing the things you care about, that aren't on a computer, if you don't have anything to take care of, if you're neglecting yourself, you're neglecting others around you, and these cause problems, and ultimately it makes you enjoy video games less. So like, let's look at it from a purely utilitarian perspective. You want to enjoy video games as much as possible, then you have to take care of yourself and the people around you, because otherwise basically those things are going to cause problems, and then you won't be able to get as immersed in the game. And I've found that through a balanced life, for me, I can use the computer a lot and be okay, but I can't sit a lot, so I have to stand and use the computer. So I don't have a standing desk or anything. I just have a big table that I put the laptop on, and it works. But there's a lot of little adjustments I had to make to be able to live this way. And I wasn't able to before I had more control, and like I have a lot of free time that I can leverage, right? So that's how I was able to learn scripts the way that I have and study EWP and all these things. It's through leveraging the fact that I have loads and loads of free time, and I have a lot of flexibility. So I have responsibilities in my life. I have plants to take care of. I have a fiance. I have things to care for. So I can't just like be on the computer all the time. But also I've had chances to do that, and I can tell you, like, you may think that, yeah, okay, my life would be great if I just wasn't so busy, if I didn't have to work. But like, ultimately, life is made by making the best of what you have available. You can think that if you just had this, then that. But I know from experience, I got to live that life. I got to live a life where, I mean, it's been a decade, I think, since I like left the rat race, so to speak. Because I used to work like a full-time job, do all that kind of thing, live with someone who, like, it was a bad situation pretty much. And I worked, like, I had a good job for someone my age, and I was paid alright. I had a lot of responsibilities, a lot of challenge at work. I like worked for this small business that installed cabinets, and I managed like all the different parts in different ways, and was very like heavily involved. And it consumed my entire life. And I like, yeah, I had like a career, I had money. But like, it didn't matter. Like, I remember I would try and, I wanted to make games, and I would get home, and like, I just didn't care about stuff as much. I was so exhausted and tired. Like, things would, the space to care about making things just didn't exist. Like, sometimes, like, back then I would take, like, ADD medication, ADHD medication. I was prescribed that kind of thing. So I would use Vyvanse or whatever. And, like, I could do that and then work on stuff, but then it would cause a lot of problems in the long run because I wouldn't sleep, and then I'd also be more irritable at work and all this other stuff. So it was like I had to sacrifice everything. In order to do what I loved, I had to sacrifice something. In order to do this, I had to sacrifice that. And it's such a shitty way to live. And like, I'm sorry to be so blunt, because I know a lot of people have to deal with it, but like, it's horrible. And life isn't that. That is just how life is for most people. And it's not even money, because I've been to events where I've met self-employed people. I've known people who earn more than $100,000 a month. Like, and I can tell you from looking deep into their eyes that money doesn't help. Money doesn't fix problems. And it's so easy to think that it does, but for many people, it only buries them deeper in the same problems they have. At the end of the day, you have to build a life out of what you already have. The more you focus on what you don't have, the more you will suffer, regardless to what you get. I've met a lot of people who are very, very successful, and they're miserable. You just don't see the misery because of the bling. The success is so obviously visual. It's so what society says that you're supposed to do, that you don't see that they're miserable. You don't get to know them. But as soon as you start being vulnerable, as soon as you open up, and in my case, I've been vulnerable about shit on YouTube that I shouldn't have been. I've shared so many things that people are very open with me. They just tell me about their lives. And I've interviewed loads of people. I used to do more of these kind of interviews, and that's why I know how to do this stuff, and why to, like, how to help keep people comfortable. I learned all these skills from things in the past, and I'm telling you, like, people suffer. People are really insecure, and what you see on the outside is just an illusion. It's a layer, it's an image, and that's it. It is not the sustenance of the inside. So you can actually live quite a beautiful life if you just stop running around so much and stop rushing. And that alone makes a huge, huge difference. And it's the same for video games. Like, most of the time, to feel immersed, you need to do the things that matter in your life, okay? So if you don't do that, if you don't do those things, then you're gonna have problems. Basically, no matter what, you're gonna have problems. Video games will become somewhat of like an addictive issue instead of something that is very therapeutic and useful for you, right? So now, because I got into that little rant, so now I'm like, where did I die? I know I went up some chamber or something. Also, I got an iron mace at some point. Interesting. But my bronze mace is better. Oh, I didn't even think about that. When you empower weapons, they keep the stamina use of the base weapon, don't they? That doesn't go up. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. I see how that could be particularly good for the bows. Hey, okay, I remember now. Flashbacks. The corridor of death right around that corner. I feel like I'm playing Skyrim or something, or an Elder Scrolls game. It's probably the first person. Yeah, that's probably it. It's the first person aspect that makes it feel that way. All right. What you got for me, Mr. Droger Elite? There's not even a spawner in this room? The heck? Brutal. So see, once I get that bubble, I can just keep going. Like, so you just have to be able to survive that first bubble. And once you get that, then it's really easy. Like, I could literally just farm this Draugr, even though he can one-hit kill me. And this is what I was originally, before I got tangentially into life and motivation and immersion. What I was trying to explain is the health system rework. I want to make it so that the player, when focused on a particular threat, can defend themselves. Because it's like in real life, basically. The human instinct, as long as it makes eye contact with the threat, it will defend itself. But then you get screwed over because you have your back turned, or you try and attack and you leave yourself vulnerable and open. Like in actual combat, that's what happens. That's how people, like, see? I tried to attack with a stronger attack right there, and then I just got ganked. Like, that's a more, for me, I know it might not intuitively make sense from like the Valheim perspective, but for me in practice, that is more practical. It feels more intuitive and more similar to the thrills of combat. I don't fight. I'm a very peaceful person, but I've observed just in life and with observing how animals fight. Like if you watch videos of how like different animals defend themselves and the strategies they use, they have different patterns. And I like watching this and thinking about it for how I can use it in monster AI in video games. And one of the things you notice is that an animal making eye contact is usually safe. It's not going to get a killing blow or a really harmful blow from another animal, usually. But the moment the animal turns away or runs, there's this window where other animals attack them. And it's some kind of like instinctual thing. So when one is faced, and also if you look at like videos of tribal people interacting with foreigners for the first time, like you see the way they hold their spears and stuff, like they crouch a bit, they have this intense stare, like they are not letting a moment you get out of their eyesight. It's this intensity, and it, for me, it's witnessing that in videos, it's an inspiring experience, because it shows me like, okay, so if I can mimic that in video games, I can make it so like if you look at the threat and you hold your shield up, you're gonna stay alive. But the moment you try and attack, or you're not holding your shield, then you can die. And with this in mind, it ties into the whole immersion thing, because how do you deal with making a world immersive if you can get stronger equipment and then there's weaker areas? How do you keep those weaker areas able to harm the player? And I think it has something to do with this notion that it's not just about health and damage. Instead, it's about states. So the player, if they're blocking, they're going to be safe for the most part. But the moment they stop, they can die. That can be true regardless to how strong your weapon is or how much damage your armor helps mitigate. You know, maybe you die in 4 hits because you have strong armor if you go AFK, but you still get killed by the neck or whatever it is. I'm not saying that neck should always be able to kill people, but that's the idea. That's the basics of the mentality from my end, at least. So here, I'm gonna use some of this strong food. Ping was gracious enough to build some feasts here, and I didn't really realize until eating from the feasts there that feasts give 50-minute food buffs. Like, that is awesome. Really cool. I didn't realize it lasted that long. And we can see that our kilns have been exploding because we've been attritting. Basically, the more you smelt and use things, the more the system attrits. and there's chances for things to explode, and then you have to build kilns again. So as you saw earlier, we may get a bunch of Surtling cores out of the burial chambers, but by smelting metal, we also need to use more burial chamber, or more Surtling cores in order to stay active, so to speak. Whoa, 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 where did these guys come from? Hey, how did that happen? How did he get empowered? What? What died? Interesting. So enemies become empowered when a player... Okay, let me take a step back. In Path of Magic, enemies can level up. They can eat each other. They can... How do I put it? They can become strong through destroying other enemies. But it's not as simple as when an enemy dies, the enemies next to it gain experience. There's certain enemies that trigger everything, right? So a deer, for example, if a deer dies, the enemy closest to it has a chance to level up. It's not guaranteed. And if they do level up, then they have a chance to level up again next time. And if that happens to a level or a 2-star enemy, so if a 2-star level enemy kills a deer, when it tries to roll the chance, Path of Magic notices that it's a 2-star enemy and upgrades it to an empowered enemy. And the empowered enemies have extra loot drops. So it's a mechanism to just add more, I don't know, they get stronger as well, and there's this tough part. I simplified the mechanic in my explanation to you right here. But for the most part, that's how it works. So there's enemies like hares and deer, and they all cause this kind of situation where other enemies level up. But in that case, I have no idea what did it. Because it happened right in front of me while I was fighting the enemy, which is sort of weird. Now we should be good. You're very tall. Oof. Just got to take that first hit. And now each attack, he'll break our bubble, and then we can get a stun on him. So many accidental mechanics. This is why you have to keep your mind open, because you're going to accidentally stumble upon much better ideas than you're going to purposefully create. And your ego will make you want to say you came up with the ideas. But the moment you start doing that, you'll lose access to the source of many, 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 many ideas. So at the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense to do that. If you want to create things a lot, then you should do what allows you to create many, many things. And that means not taking credit, not really thinking too much, just going with the flow. People have ideas, try them out, see how they feel. Don't rely on what you think about what people say. It doesn't work as well. Instead, rely on how you feel when you do what people say. Make sense? In general, that's just a more, let's say, reasonable way to handle things. Let's see, what time is it? I can tell. I'm... Okay, 5:42. So my internet completely crashes at 6. And earlier, I was just letting that happen, but that's not ideal, because then the stream just suddenly ends. And so then when you rewatch it, or someone watches it later, it's like jarring, right? And it's less interesting. So I want to make sure they actually end where I like say it's ending and it ends properly. So that means that I need to end it before 6. So I have about 15 minutes. And I'm probably just going to keep working on the empowered stuff. So we've looted this thing enough for now. And what we can do is... Did this work? It did work. Too bad I can't just like yeet the cart out of the... I wish you could just like move the cart, you know what I mean? Drop it out of the dungeon. That would... Oh my gosh, I could. What am I talking about? I could make that a spell. Oh. Oh, 1 second. Make cart dungeon eater spell. Yeah, there we go. That's vague. No one will know what that means, but I will. All right. So we're just going to unloot the cart here. And thankfully, we have our cart outside, which is a bigger cart than this one. So there's more space, and we should just be able to reach it. We can't. That's okay. I can probably just keep jumping up. So we're just going to fill this up. Oh, I guess I don't need that. I'm going to run out of space anyway. That's okay. And what I'm going to do for the rest of this episode is I'm going to roll my empowered chances. Because now we have some silver. Surely we have some silver because I got like that stack in the beginning, right? And it's been smelting. We loaded things up. So as long as I just go turn this conveyor on, probably when we go back, there will be silver in the smelting area. We can use that to figure out what weapons to empower. So for now, let's just put all this away. And let's see. It's really important that you don't leave things in dungeons in Path of Magic, because the dungeons themselves reset. Players can reset them. You're going to lose whatever you leave in a dungeon. Whether it's your tombstone, your body, like you could lose everything. If you leave everything inside the dungeon and then it resets, it's gone. It's forced reset. So keep that in mind. I might change that in the future. I'm not like probably for the actual like layer I've talked about, I'll change it. But for Palm, I'll just keep it that way. Because for me to change it, I have to like readjust how most of the system itself handles resets. And I have to make it so the tombstone itself blocks resets. But then in doing so, that would mean that how do I distinguish tombstones from the soft reset items? So it's complicated. So it's a lot easier for me to just keep it how it is. So that's how it is. That's just how it is. Probably in future versions of it, I won't. Hey, someone organically triggered the rag armor. That's hilarious. That's really cool. So I hope you're enjoying Thor. Thor has been playing on the server today. And I saw they did the first boss chest, and they've been doing the mechanics. Very, very cool. I hope that you have fun. And I see that you haven't died ridiculous amounts of times, and that's good. You know, sometimes it's fine if people die a couple times in the beginning. I don't think that's a problem. But when people join and they get stuck in death loops or something, I don't like that. I don't like that. Hello, Wakarat. Wakarat says, how easy would you say would it be to join the server and play through it blindly? So for the most part, that's how it's made to do. You don't have to learn a whole bunch of things. I don't like relying on learning a bunch of things. I guess there's just like maybe one or two things you should know. Basically, I just put these in yesterday, actually. So you can type say palm ? And then it'll show some of the most important mechanics. So basically, Palm has a lot of high intensity monster situations, especially with undead. So if you play vanilla, what you're used to, you're going to struggle with that. So you need to know about bubble blocking, and you need to know about the elemental arrows that explode. And as long as you know about those things and the boss chests, you could play blind. Those are the mechanics. I'd say there's 3 you have to know. Boss chests to progress. Arrows are explosive and AoE damage, the elemental ones, so fire, poison, frost, silver. And then all the other mechanics, like especially the ones I've developed recently, I develop them with the intention that the player doesn't know, and then the game teaches the player by the player playing. So I don't like to develop in a way where the person has to read something in order to know about it. I guess the exception is right now with floor trade. So if you go, say, buy... Yeah, I need to fix this, but basically, for some reason, this right now, I made some kind of typo or something, and it's showing the variable names instead of their actual cost. But one of the features of Path of Magic is that you can purchase building materials using coins, right? So, for example, if I wanted to buy a bunch of stone, then I could get 970 coins, throw them on the ground, and then go say buy, and then it would swap the coins for those stones. At the moment, you don't have a way of learning that list in the game. So that's why I need to get this to work, this thing here. This will show the prices, and then you'll be able to do it. And from that point, you really don't need to know any of the other mechanics, because you'll learn them, and that's part of the fun of Path of Magic, to be honest. So I'll fix this when I get a chance. And aside from that, like, you know about the diverger, but the game also teaches you about things like there's certain times where if you build something, you'll get a message. Like, let's build this. It says this pile of coins would serve the diverger well. Type say trader to entice a trader, right? So you just doing normal things will teach you about certain kinds of mechanics, okay? And here we go. I have to focus now and get to the end here, because we are now at the point where I have about 10 minutes to finish up here. So why not finish up in an empowering finale? We will see what ends up happening, if I end up getting any weapons or they all get destroyed. Empowering makes as much as it breaks. It's definitely, I see why the other players got into it, because it's definitely very thrilling to be able to like make your favorite weapons twice as strong, you know? Very, very useful. So let's get to it. We're going to empower. But what should we empower? What do you think? We have, it looks like we have 8 attempts to empower. Oh, thank you, Wakarat. Wakarat says, impressive. Your passion for the game is admirable. Honestly, Valheim is an admirable game. I'm so grateful. In particular to Irongate and Yer and Dakar and Raka. All of these people have done things that, if without what they did, there's no way I would be able to practice the way that I do. And all of them played fundamental roles in making this possible. And I can learn things faster because of what they have done. So now let's see. Do I wanna work on some kind of abyssal razor? I don't know though. I don't have level 3 ones. So that seems kind of silly. Or do I want to go for this bronze? I'm gonna bronze mace. And it's gonna blow up, isn't it? Of course. No more bronze mace. Well, at least the empowering system has a little bit of mercy in it. It gives you some silver necklace and ruby back, but no silver. So now I have to make a new one. And I could start like empowering iron. I feel tempted to, but to be honest, the bronze is what I learn more from. So it's either a bronze sword or the bronze mace. And I haven't used the maces as much, to be honest. And I like how the bronze mace looks. The bronze sword is really cool though. I don't know, I'm kind of torn between the mace or the sword. Let's let fate decide. I'm gonna alternate. And if it explodes, I'll make the other one. So for now, we're going with sword because I just blew the other kind up. And we're gonna need more bronze, so let's get at this. Luckily, I've been doing these burial chambers, which is where you get tin in Path of Magic. So, we have lots and lots and lots of, well, lots of bronze. One pile of bronze. It feels like lots of bronze, okay? Let me have my delusions. Okay, so now we're gonna upgrade our bronze sword. And we actually want to upgrade it to level 3. You could upgrade it to level 4, and you might think about that's better. But technically, in the long run, you can get the most powerful item by starting with a level 3 weapon. And that's because of how it doubles. But I won't go into the logistics of that for now. Let's see. And I should make multiple. Oh, okay. I got one. This is the heartbreaking way to empower. It's when you do it one at a time. One at a time. Basically this is gonna explode, and then I'm gonna be heartbroken, and I'm gonna have to restart from the beginning. Oh, it worked twice. Okay, you know what? Maybe, am I happy with that? I don't know. Maybe I'm happy with that. It's 100 damage. That's pretty strong, to be honest. It's like really strong. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna be happy with that. And instead of trying to push my luck, let's see. Can I also make a mace? Yeah, I'm gonna try and make an empowered mace as well here. Let's see. There's no way I'll get lucky this many times in a row. So there we go. We have this bronze mace. If I can empower this once, that would be awesome. Even just once is great. You can see how. There we go. Yep. All right. That's more what I was expecting, to be honest. Like absolutely more along the lines of what I was expecting. But we have this now. Look at this thing. It does 101 slash damage and 8 stamina use. And the block force is 75. That is hilarious. That's so much damage. Wow. You could actually block with this. Is that more block force than the tower shield? No, but yikes. Maybe I should empower the tower shield. Let's see. I'm just gonna go for this bronze empowered and see maybe how far in the game can I get with just empowered bronze gear. Hey, oh, look at this. We're getting lucky. Getting lucky. All right, do I try again? I don't know, I could. The tower shields are really cheap. Like super cheap. They're made with things that are really easy to find. So, all right. Please be nice to me. Oh, man. I don't know how you all have the courage to go past level 12. It's so strong. Like, I feel like I don't even need to. I'm just gonna keep the level 12 gear for now. All right, we got that. Like, look at this difference. Where's the... Oh, yeah, we could make a bronze mace. Or I could try and... Ooh, what if I do it with a knife? The copper knife. I'm not gonna try and max this copper knife. So I could start it at... Yeah, okay. We're gonna make a couple attempts with this copper knife. Let's see. Oh, first one, no luck. All right, I made another copper knife somewhere. I think it's in the nonsense chest. Here we go. Yeah, all right. Let's see. Any luck? And there's actually a hidden mechanic. I don't know if any player has discovered yet. It has to do with spears. Oh, no luck. That's fine though. Honestly, I got so lucky now. I have a level 12 bronze sword and a level 12 shield, which is great. That is a lot more than I was working with before. Abandon all hope and hit the button. Yeah. So for those of you watching Rack and Sprocket, this is Baliog, and I think Bal, Pan, and Eric, they've done like so many empowers, so they know the system. They're the people who like used it when I implemented it, and then I was like, damn, people are actually like using this system. It's very cool. So you see how it gets you all excited, and then yeah, you have a powerful item, but it's so tempting to be like, I could have it double again. and then it blows up. Like that, it honestly is Palm in a nutshell. That mechanic is like, it shows the attitude that I'm going for really well. And let's see, is there anything else? I can't even do, yeah, I used up all the silver, so that's all done. We have some stuff smelting. I have got this cool equipment. So out of all that silver that I got in the mountain, I basically got a sword and a shield, right? So now I have to go practice my sword skill because I don't think I've like ever even hit anything with a sword so far. Kind of cool though. Let's see how shiny it is. I like the bronze when it's like shining in the light. It looks pretty badass. Not gonna lie. Yeah, look how shiny. Yeah, the shiny helmet. Sword looking kind of dull. I don't. There we go. There's the shine. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I like this. Cool. Why are shiny things cool? Like, what's up with that? Why do I like this more in the sunlight? Because it's shiny. Why am I attracted to shine? Am I a bird? A magpie, maybe? I don't know. Is that like a normal thing, or am I just bizarre? I tend to assume that things are normal, but I often should remember that it might be something else. All right. This looks pretty solid. I guess we're good then. So I'll figure out something to work on next time. Gonna keep working on using bronze gear. So I guess I could start trying to actually like empower this sort of thing. It looks like empowering uses silver like coal. So I need to probably go get like a proper thing of silver. I did find that whole entire node. So I could just go back there and try and get the rest of it with like a cart or something. That'd probably make a cool episode. Anyway, for now, I'm off. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching another episode of The Path of Magic. All of the crazy nonsense that you've been seeing so far has been done with Expand World Prefabs. Expand World Prefabs is a fantastic server-side BepInEx mod developed by Yair. And if it wasn't for Yair's hard work, none of this would be possible. So I strongly encourage you to support Yair if you can. And if you're interested in supporting my work, there's two ways that you can do so. By getting your own dedicated Valheim server at Zap Hosting. I've got lots of tutorials showing you how to set everything up, and it doesn't even take that long. All you'll need to do is go to the link in my description, zaphosting.com/jpvalheim. That'll get you set up with the BepInEx server straight away, and then you just need to change a couple config files, and I have all of the information that you need for that. The second way is to support me on Patreon, and you can just check out the link in the description below if you're interested in doing that. I understand that some of you might want to support me, but, you know, you're not going to get a server to do so, so here you go. Now you have a way to do it. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next episode of The Path of Magic. Bye-bye.